minimal for us.
Yeah, it's going to be what I am, but that's the best I have to offer.
Look, there's a legitimately real chance that
Matthew Berry comes on. Not what you were going to say? You don't want to tell us what you're going to say?
I'm sorry, I got mixed up.
The suspense is killing me.
I was getting a double feed for a second there. No, I mean, there's a very real chance that like we have minimal people jump on anyway because it's whatever. But
I thought you're going to do it to me again.
Yeah, but if we don't do it, then nobody jumps on at all. So
right.
Let's get it out there and let's try.
So I would say we don't pay attention as much to what it says viewer wise or whatever. We just try and do it and see how it goes.
For sure, we can't.
I wonder if there's a way for us. I guess not to do
Facebook Live.
Yeah. I
looked into it. Like there's some kind of a way, but you have to have all these different like apps installed to do it.
Mm-hmm. Will it tell us if people get on?
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll show on the bottom. Do you see on the bottom there? Like next to where it says live? Does it show you the number of viewers?
My live top right corner.
Yeah.
Oh, so you guys have a different setup than I do.
It might be because of the difference of Mac and PC.
I will know.
I think it's a moderator.
Yeah, I'll know how many. Like right now it says 1 viewers. Hi, 1 viewers.
It's not how plurals and singulars work.
No, it's not.
Do you guys think that if I started to undress as we do this, we would get more or less viewers?
I think
you'll get at least one less football goon podcasting.
Yeah.
I can promise my night will be over.
I think 1 viewers would leave pretty quickly too.
I doubt it. If it's anybody that knows us well enough, they probably see me without a shirt on anyway.
This is likely true.
I think everybody can agree that once you saw Rock go naked once, you want to keep seeing him naked.
I wouldn't agree.
You don't agree with that?
No.
I got my Lucky Roger Goodell clown shirt on for our mock draft and also for our viewers to see, so they can see, just how awesome we are on a regular basis.
I'm going with the hobo look because it's hot in this room.
It looks like a hobo look, actually.
Yeah.
South, next time you go to the store, see if you can get some sleeves to go with that.
It's so hot in this room right now. I'm so happy that the next time that we pod, the draw app will be disabled.
I'm trying to use it right now.
Why will it be disabled?
I was actually clicking on it as you said that.
It shows me that you were.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this is super creepy. Like anything that you guys click, it tells me.
Does it show you this?
Yes. Unfortunately.
All right, so 9:30. We ready to roll here?
Yeah, let's do it. Just listen, don't jam things up with these effects because it slows it down. So
I think it adds to it.
It really doesn't.
See? I think everybody would agree that makes everything better.
You look like Rey Mysterio.
All right, here we go.
All right.
Comments, concerns before we kick off? Everybody ready to trade me everything for the number 2 pick?
I'm out.
I'm not ready. Oh, I got so excited I knocked my mic down.
I got the number 1 pick, so I don't need to trade for the number 2.
Trade him for number 2. Straight up.
All right. Here we go. All right, everyone. Welcome to the 2017 Goons Mock Draft. We had a great time with this in 2016, and we're going to kick it up a notch this year. The 4 of us have each been given 8 slots to draft in this year's first round, largely based upon divisions, and slightly adjusted just so we all had 8 picks. When we initially gave it out, Rocco only had like 4 picks thanks to his teams trading them away. So we figured we'd even things out because life wouldn't be the same without enough Rocco. The big difference here this year is that we're going to allow trade offers based on the famed NFL draft trade value chart introduced in the 1990s by Cowboys head coach Jimmy Johnson. Also, we'll each be using our own big boards and positional rankings, so players could have different values based on which of us got the random team. Mocks can be done many different ways, so we won't necessarily be picking what we would do in each spot, but what we're looking at is what history and our own research tells us that team's current GMs and coaching staffs would be doing. So without further ado here, let's get this thing rolling. As the commissioner of this mock draft, I'm going to get us kicked off. I'm going to put the Cleveland Browns on the clock, picking as Sashi Brown and company.
All right. Well, the Cleveland Browns are again on the clock with the number 1 pick. I think that at this time, the Browns would be at least entertaining some trade offers if any came through. But to me, this is a no-brainer pick. So with the first pick in the 2017 Goons Mock Draft, the Cleveland Browns select Myles Garrett, defensive end from Texas A&M. This is a guy who could easily change things around for their franchise on the defensive side of the ball. He's a physical freak. He's a monster. He's a disruptor. And I think that he would make an immediate difference for that team to be a little bit more competitive on the defensive side of the ball in 2017.
All right, wonderful. No shocker there. I think he's the consensus number 1, unless, of course, you believe these theories that the front office is pitching for a quarterback there. I guess that's yet to be seen.
Ugh.
But we'll go for now. We don't want to be laughed at by pick 1, so we'll go with the normal one. Pick number 2 here, the San Francisco 49ers are on the clock. That has been given to me. Any trade offers out there? I told you guys earlier today, number 2 is on the block.
I thought about it a little bit for one team in particular, but I think the cost would just be too astronomical because I don't have a team that picks again until 9, so I don't have anything for you.
All right, so with the number 2 pick then in the 2017 NFL Draft, the San Francisco 49ers are going to follow what my mocks have been doing here and go with edge rusher out of Stanford, Solomon Thomas. It's kind of tough to see that this team's going to go with 3 straight years of defensive line. But a team like this just needs to have a strength. And as of right now, they really don't. If you can get 3 top 15 picks along, one set of your team, defensive line, interior rush improves, the edge rush on both sides improves. So overall, it just makes the defense somewhat formidable. San Francisco just needs to take the best guy they have. For me, that's Thomas. For their board, it may be someone different. I could see them going a lot of ways, but I'm headed with Solomon Thomas out of Stanford going to San Francisco. Brings us to number 3 here, puts Rocco on the clock with the Chicago Bears.
All right, so the Bears need help on all 3 levels of defense. I think a lot of analysts and people will tell you that they're going to go D-line, but a lot of what we've seen lately has them almost a slam dunk with one of these safeties. And I'm going to go with Malik Hooker out of Ohio State. I think he's the better playmaker of the 2. One analyst said his playmaking ability will rival that of Ed Reed. No, I'm not calling him Ed Reed, but if he can play center field like Ed Reed can, that's a stud pick right there for the Chicago Bears to rebuild that defense.
All right, great. So that puts the Jacksonville Jaguars here on the clock at number 4. Miles making this pick. This is one where I can really see the draft taking numerous turns. The Jaguars, a lot of people want to give them a running back, and I just don't like it. I appreciate the 2 guys they have at least as formidable. I could definitely see it happening, but for me, right here, I'm going to take a surprise here and go with O.J. Howard, the tight end out of Alabama, to go to Jacksonville. This team's got to figure out if Blake Bortles is the real deal for them or not. In order to do so, they need to surround him with as much talent as possible. I think he's already got that in spades on the edge with Allen Robinson Marquise Lee, Allen Hurns. O.J. Howard can come in and be kind of what they thought they were going to get in Julius Thomas, but didn't for numerous reasons, part of which is I'm not sure how much he cares to be good. I think O.J. Howard's very, very different. O.J. cares. He just spent his entire career knowing that he was a superstar and just blocking for the Alabama running game. So that tells me he's unselfish. He really wants it. And I think he'll flourish there in that passing system if Bortles decides to look down at his jersey, see what color it is, and throw it to the right team before he lets the ball go. So number 4 here, we're going to go with O.J. Howard, tight end out of Alabama, to the Jacksonville Jaguars. And since I haven't been talking enough, I'm also on the clock here at number 5. This pick acquired from the Los Angeles Rams last year in the trade for Jared Goff. And the Tennessee Titans are just reaping the benefits of this one, where they're a playoff caliber team. And as Rocco's argued, they're a broken leg away from making it last year. And now they get the number 5 pick as well. They're a team that's got a couple of needs as close as they are to the playoffs. They can go wide receiver, corner here, anywhere on the D line, some edge rush help. For me, as deep, and I'll preach till the day it gets here how deep this draft is at corner, but there's one guy that stands heads and shoulders above the rest, and I'm going to go ahead and take him here for Tennessee, stick him on an edge. I think I would have made this pick before they just lost Jason McCourty this week. Tennessee Titans on the clock at number 5 are going to take Marshawn Lattimore, corner out of Ohio State. This guy's speed and athleticism are as good as anyone else in this draft, but he's got the technique to go with it as well. I'm not as concerned as some others with the soft tissue things that he had going on early in his college career. He seemingly took care of that with a surgery, so I'm not going to hold it against him. I'm just going to look at his numbers, look at his talent, and go ahead and put it on my team. So if I'm Tennessee at number 5 and he's still on the board, no brainer for me. Marshawn Lattimore, cornerback, Ohio State, welcome to Nashville. All right, after that, we've got number 6 here, random draw. Rocco got his own team. Rocco, you are picking number 6. The New York Jets are on the clock.
I was actually going to say, I looking ahead, I'm the only one that got their own team, which I love because I get to play Homer a little bit here. But in all seriousness,
I just took your guy.
I was going to say you snaked him one pick before. I think the Jets would be extremely, extremely lucky and happy if Marshawn Lattimore fell to them. In this case, he does not. But that secondary needs to be addressed. They're not going to reach on a corner now because the best one's off the board, and it's so deep that they can address that later on. So they're going to take the best remaining D back available, and that's going to be Jamal Adams, safety from LSU. He's a 1A, 1B player with Malik Hooker at this point. I prefer Hooker a little bit, just my preference, but I don't think either one can really is going to be a wrong pick at this point. I think they both have phenomenal playmaking ability in the deep secondary. Adams is a little bit more of a thumper than Hooker is, so I think that'll help out, on multiple levels for this Jets defense that really needs help in that secondary.
All right, so believe it or not, Deal is here with us tonight. We haven't heard from him yet, but we are going to put him on the clock here at number 7 to the Los Angeles Chargers. See where he wants to go with the first pick for the Chargers in their new town of LA.
What a weird world we live in that I'm at all the way down here with the Chargers, and Leonard Fournette is available, and I can't take him. So guess we'll pass on Leonard Fournette, and I will take Derek Barnett, edge out of Tennessee. And I've been saying that they were going to take edge for a while now, forever really, and I still think they're going to, and pair him up with Joey Bosa from last year. And I've seen some guys say that they're going to take offensive player. It just doesn't make sense. They've been the number 9 offensive team for the last 2 years. Offense is not their struggle here, and if their defense got better, they would be even better than the number 9 offense. So their defense has to get better. That's going to start by getting after the quarterback on both sides, adding Derek Barnett.
Yeah, I've actually seen that on a couple of message boards that I read, that people are worried of what kind of fit he is there in San Diego. And I just point to Melvin Ingram already being there very similar build to Barnett. I don't think they're married to that traditional edge rusher being, a leaner player. I mean, he's a stockier guy, but just watching his tape, I think he fits anywhere. All right, number 8 here on the clock, the Carolina Panthers. Deal has this pick, and this might be a dream scenario here for Carolina. Let's see if Deal goes with the consensus.
So, unfortunately, couldn't take him for the Chargers, but I can take it for the Panthers. No brainer. They have to take Leonard Fournette. I don't think this actual scenario is going to play out. I think they're going to try to move up for Fournette. At least I think they should if they have to. But in this one, they don't have to. And they get probably the second best player in the draft, and they get Leonard Fournette, and they are pumped about it.
Any thought to, I know South's on the clock next with Cincinnati. If this is next Thursday night, and how exciting is that to say, first off, that we're there. But you guys see Cincinnati trying to hop Carolina if Fournette kind of gets past that first group?
I missed your question. I'm sorry. I was writing.
I said, if this is next Thursday night and we see Fournette slide kind of past that Jacksonville area, do you see Cincinnati trying to trade up and hop Carolina to try to grab him?
I'm not saying that either of their guys are better than Fournette, because they're not. But I just can't see them giving up additional picks to get another running back. And yes, he's better than the two that they have. I feel like they need more than running back right now, and to give up additional draft picks to move up, 1 or 2 spots seems like a hefty price to pay for them at this point.
But Rock, how pumped would you be if they were calling the Jets to move back like 3 slots and then pick up a second rounder with it?
I would be okay with a situation like that, because the Jets could probably still get Adams at that spot at 9. Yeah. But I mean, I just can't see the Bengals doing it. I don't think it makes sense for them to do it.
Well, I mean, I think it's worth your second rounder to make sure you get Leonard Fournette.
Because you're not considering how close both Hill and Bernard are to contracts being up. And you can't tell me they're that thrilled with either guy.
Yeah.
So just a thought. I've just read so much about them sniffing around the running back position. I'm curious to see what they do. Well, let's see what they do right now in the Goons mock draft. South is going to be on the clock here at number 9 overall to the Cincinnati Bengals. What do you see happening here?
Yeah, I think this is kind of like an unfortunate turn of events here for the Bengals, because 2 of the main guys that I think that they would be targeting at 9, not necessarily targeting, but hoping would fall to them at number 9, I believe, are Derek Barnett and Leonard Fournette. I think that they're both just good fits for what they need as a team right now. And you hit it right on the head. There's a reason why they've been sniffing around so much at the running back position. So I'm kind of torn here with this pick, but I'm going to go more with the taking a chance aspect. And I'm going to mock Dalvin Cook at number 9 overall to the Cincinnati Bengals. Rocco mentioned it, that he didn't think that it was smart for them necessarily to move up and give up the picks to try and get Fournette. And I kind of agree with that. I think that Fournette would be, the grand prize, but Cook is not a bad consolation prize at all. And especially for what they like to do in that offense, I think he's going to be an excellent fit for them. He's very versatile. I know that he gets a little bit of a bad rap for, whether or not he's going to be a good receiver at the next level or whatever. I'm not necessarily buying into that. I think that he's going to end up being the total package as long as he can keep himself out of trouble off the field. So they're going to go with Dalvin Cook right there.
Yeah, maybe a nice mix of the 2 guys that they have kind of rolled into one, I guess.
Right.
All right, so here we go to round out the top 10. The nice part for Rocco was he got to do his own team, but he also has to do his divisional rivals. So we're going to put the Buffalo Bills on the clock here. Rocco, let's see where you see them going.
From everything I've seen, the Buffalo Bills need a punter. So we're going to start us off right there. Obviously, I'm joking. We're going to try and keep this as realistic as possible. Take
a kicker instead.
One huge need for the Buffalo Bills is playmakers at the wide receiver position. They brought back Tyrod Taylor. They need to give him something other than just Sammy Watkins, who can't stay on the field all the time anyway. The guy that I think fits perfectly in this situation is going to be Clemson's Mike Williams. I think giving Tyrod Taylor a huge red zone target, somebody with the ability to just go up and get it, especially when you consider those running backs in Buffalo, how good that tandem is of McCoy and Gillislee. They're going to have a lot of red zone opportunities, and Mike Williams is the best red zone target wide receiver in this entire draft. So Mike Williams, wide receiver, Clemson, you wind up at number 10 to the Buffalo Bills.
Do you guys, I'm obviously taking a break here, do you appreciate me jumping in and asking questions? I think that was the one thing missing last year. So,
of course. So I think if anybody has
let's comment on each other's stuff a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. Plus, it gives everybody, the next person, a chance to write it down. Plus, get theirs ready. That's what I need.
All right, so feel free to jump in. Don't get that was a little bit dull last year that we can probably change now.
Anybody on South?
Yeah, it's showing a couple people.
Nice.
Nobody really chatting it up, but
yeah.
Feel free to chat, folks.
Chat it up. We want to hear you. We want to see a chatter. We want to hear a little bit of chatter.
Yep. We if you're out there, watching and listening in, throw us some questions and we will absolutely try and address them as we go here.
All right, so let's get rolling here into the second 10. Team that's already been moving a little bit here in the draft by trading Brandon Cooks. The New Orleans Saints, we're going to put them on the clock. Deal has been assigned the NFC South, so where do you see the Saints going here, Deal?
This one tears me because I've had Reuben Foster going to them basically forever, but then now Jonathan Allen falls to them, where I expected him to go earlier. He was projected to go 2, 3, 4 all this time, but I'm going to stick with Reuben Foster because I still believe that he is one of the top talents in this draft, and had it not been for hopefully a misunderstanding or altercation at the combine, I think he could have shown what he really has and proven more what he did at Alabama, take it to his skill set at the combine. But I think that he adds so much to the Saints. They're another team that absolutely does not need to take any offensive weapons here, even though, as we've talked in depth, they might just take a running back here. Who knows? But Reuben Foster is a huge addition. He's such a playmaker all over the middle of the field, and they really need that. They need a general on their team, and that's Reuben Foster.
I will be shocked if – I can't say shocked. I'm getting to the point where I think by 10 days from now I'll be shocked if that pick is not Christian McCaffrey. I'm calling that now.
Could be, but that's stupid.
How much of that do you think is maybe that Foster isn't there?
None.
None?
I'm not sure. We'll talk about this next week, but
yeah,
I'll leave it for next week.
I got to say, I did have him pegged and considered for the Bengals. I think that's a good fit, so that could happen.
All right, so for the second time in the draft already, the Cleveland Browns are going to be on the clock. First pick, South took Myles Garrett. This time around, Rocco got the draw for the Cleveland Browns. So where do you see these guys building just a little bit further into the future?
So I think the consensus here among a lot of people is that the Browns still need a quarterback. And although I agree with that, just the way this has fallen so far, I don't think now's the time to reach for one. Because I think the guy that they really want might actually still be around in the second round. So I'm going to take advantage of the fact that one of the best players in this draft has fallen, and we're going to continue to rebuild Cleveland's defense. And we're going to go with Jonathan Allen, defensive tackle out of Alabama.
At the end of what you want to say?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
all right. I was waiting.
If you want me to say more, I mean, you're getting probably the second or third best player in this draft. At number 12 here, just because the way everything's fallen. I mean, we don't need to talk about how great Jonathan Allen is. We had discussed that when we were talking about the D-line grouping in itself. But I mean, this is a slam dunk. You're getting the no worse than the third best player in this draft at pick 12.
Rocco, be honest with me. Have you ever heard the words, "Do you want to say more" before?
Nobody usually
Was
gives
that the
me that
first
opportunity.
time?
Nobody usually gives me that opportunity. So
Yeah, I had this, the two round mock that I released on the site last week. That was the exact situation where Allen fell to the Browns, and I just think he's got this shoulder issue, the arthritic shoulders that I think are scaring some teams off. So he's sliding down boards. But if you're Cleveland, now it's pick 12 and it's your second pick. Like, you almost look heroic at that point for mopping up 2 top 5 players. So even if that one doesn't work out, it was a risk that they, more than the 11 teams before them, or the other 10 teams, I guess, should be willing to take.
And it gives you a lot of versatility along your defensive front too.
mm-hmm.
So I think that's a really, fortunate thing the way that played out for them there.
All right, so that's going to bring us to pick 13 here. We've got the Arizona Cardinals, which I will be making that pick. I'm going to go a bit down the big board here for Arizona because I think there's a player team fit that I really like. And I know a lot of teams are starting to get away from that a little bit, really married to the best player available kind of situation. But for me, I'm going to ignore a couple of these guys that are ranked a little higher and still maybe fits on Arizona. I think to get back to that NFC Championship caliber team, which, if we remember, it seems like forever ago, it was only 2 seasons ago that these guys were among the class of the league. I think they need to get back to kind of beating people up a little bit on defense. And what carried that team to the conference championship, aside from how awesome David Johnson is, was the secondary just beating people up. And I really like the fit across from Patrick Peterson to bring in a guy like Alabama's Marlon Humphrey. His size, his power. I mean, you watch this guy, he hits like an outside linebacker or a safety. His jam is excellent. He like I said, he's got the prototypical size at corner. He needs some work on, covering that deep ball. And we covered this last week. Who better to have in your room, your film room, and help you with your technique than Patrick Peterson, who's arguably the best, if not definitely top 3 corners in the NFL right now. So when you take Peterson's natural ability and you add it to the fact that Humphrey has some of those things you can't teach, the size, the aggressiveness, the willingness to just come in and lay a lick on people. If he's a willing learner, which, you obviously don't know about him sitting here on my couch, but if he's a willing learner, this could be a complete steal for them. So at 13 for the Arizona Cardinals, I'm going with Marlon Humphrey.
If anybody wants to know why Alabama was in the last 2 national championship games, they just had 3 defensive players go in a row on our mock draft. So
and
there you go.
That was 10 picks after they had an offensive player. They have 4 players gone. 4 Alabama players in the top 13.
And I thought I was crazy because I'm putting together the mock for this Thursday for the site. And when I counted up Alabama players in the first round, I thought people are going to think I'm nuts. But the way this is unfolding, it's pretty accurate.
All right, so here we go. Number 14. The Philadelphia Eagles are on the clock. A pick obtained a week before the season started, actually, from the Minnesota Vikings by trading all-pro quarterback Sam Bradford for a first-round pick.
Stop it.
Well, I'm sure he was able to, read the all-pro team like the rest of us.
Maybe
so
not even. I mean, no? I wouldn't be shocked if he couldn't.
So the Eagles are on the clock here at number 14. South's going to be making this pick. Let's see where he wants to go.
Yeah, this is an interesting one again because the way that things have fallen, the Eagles are in a position as a team, and I think we've discussed this almost exhaustively at this point. They don't have to make any kind of a reach based on any position at this point. They've set themselves up nicely through free agency and what they've done in the offseason, where they can kind of sit back and see what comes to them and then just take the best player available. Part of the homer part of me is a little bit sad that, Foster and, we just had Humphrey go off the board. But then there's also the part of me that says that you got Corey Davis still sitting there at number 14. And the way this is unfolding, I think that that's the move that the Eagles would make. So I'm going to have them mock Corey Davis at number 14 overall. The reason why this fits so nicely is because this is a guy who we've discussed in the past couple of weeks. He could be one of the next great wide receivers in this league. He really could do it all. You're not married to any wide receiver that you have on your roster, even though you've made some substantial changes through free agency. Torrey Smith is really there on a prove-it kind of deal. Alshon Jeffrey is only there for a year, and he's already got an injury history. And then there's talk even of Jordan Matthews maybe not being re-signed once his initial contract is up. So I think it's just a smart move to bring this guy in. He's going to be a guy who now you don't have to rush right into things, but he could prove to you right out of training camp that he's ready, and you could put him right in right away. So I think that's the move they're going to make is Corey Davis.
All right. So hold on. I just got tongue tied. That went really well. All right. So at the 14th pick, the Eagles give Carson Wentz just a little bit more help. So there's no more excuses. So that brings 15. The Indianapolis Colts are on the clock. And I've been assigned the Colts pick here. So I'm feeling a lot of pressure. Deal's eyes really on me here. I'm not sure where I'm going to go. I've been mocking Jabril Peppers to the Colts since it feels like last July. Like it's just been, for me, it's a perfect fit. He's a Swiss Army knife on defense. They need players anywhere on defense. But the purpose of this mock was not what would I do if I were the GM. It's what do I think the Colts would do? And that is actually kind of a hard one because you don't know what Chris Ballard's going to do. It's his first draft. But for me, if I'm the Colts and I want to get myself to victory again as quick as possible, the easiest way to do that is keeping Andrew Luck on his feet. So for me, I'm sitting here. There hasn't been an offensive lineman drafted yet. I'm going to take the number one offensive lineman on my board. For me, that's Wisconsin's Ryan Ramczyk, offensive tackle here, and I'm taking him to the Colts. I'm not sure that it's the right pick. Like I said, if it were me, I would take Peppers. But I think for them, they proved it last year. Ryan Kelly was definitely not the number one guy on the board, and they took him because they needed to. And I think Ramczyk is kind of that same situation. Again, like a guy I drafted earlier tonight, there's a little bit of injury history here, a little bit of worry, but it's something where it's probably one of those things where you're uncovering everything because you're looking so deeply at things. But Ramczyk gives you some really major talent. I love Wisconsin linemen because they're coming from a pro system. And so they're the most ready to play. And that's the biggest problem with college football right now is the linemen don't know how to play pro ball because it's so different from the spread offenses they're constantly playing in. So for me, for the second year in a row, the Colts are going to take a Ryan in the first round. I know you're not upset about that deal, but Ryan Ramczyk going to help protect Andrew Luck, keep him on his feet, and get things rolling back in Indy.
I'm protecting Andy from afar. I'm protecting him from here, but you can't hurt adding another Ryan to help him out.
I don't think there's too much help a 165-pound lineman's gonna give him.
Well, they better take Ramczyk then.
There you go. All right, so Ramczyk to the Colts. Let's move on here to number 16, the Baltimore Ravens on the clock. This one's for South. Who do you got?
Yeah, it's interesting. I thought for sure that you were going Peppers with that last pick. And
little curveball.
Yeah, a little curveball. So, but I think it's good. I think it's a good fit. And I think that another team that is definitely going to be tempted by Jabril Peppers at this spot would be the Ravens. I think it probably deters them a little bit that they just brought in Tony Jefferson. You do have Weddle. I know he's getting up there. And Peppers is really, dynamic. He could do a lot of different things, but I think that it kind of curbs the need to take him right there. The issue that you have right now with the Ravens is that you kind of got decimated along the offensive line by free agency. So I think they're also going to be looking for one of those bookend tackles as well. And a guy that I'm actually a little bit surprised isn't gone already. I do think that he could be a top 10 pick is Garrett Bowles from Utah. I've talked about it before, how much I like him. I think that obviously there's still a little bit of work to be done in developing him into your perennial left tackle. But you really don't have to worry about that right now because you do have Ronnie Stanley that you took last year who can play there. So you could put Bowles right in at right tackle, and it fills the hole that you have there, from this past free agency. So he's a guy who's got a nasty demeanor. He could be an absolute road grader if they ever decide that they want to try and do something with their running game there. So I think that Garrett Bowles is the pick here for the Baltimore Ravens.
All right, great. And we're going to keep South on the mic here at number 17, picking for the Washington Redskins.
Yeah, so the Redskins, this is a fortunate thing for them because they're a team that has all of a sudden a lot of needs. They were a team that was competitive last year and looked like they were kind of on the upswing, and they've lost a lot to free agency as well. But I think that one of the things that is going to be intriguing to them is the versatility with this player. And I think that this is where we see Jabril Peppers go off the board. They need help on the defensive side of the ball. Their offense was extremely productive last year, and the number one thing that absolutely killed them, like a lot of teams that were kind of on the cusp last year, was their inability to stop anybody on defense. A lot of those issues are up front, but a good amount of them are also on the back end of that defense. So Peppers gives you the versatility where you can plug him in a variety of different spots. You can bring him down in the box to help and run support. He absolutely does not mind at all laying the wood to the running backs, and he could also play the deep ball as well. So it's going to be a plus for them to add a guy who can do a variety of things where they have a variety of needs. So I'm going with Jabril Peppers.
All right, so that's going to put me here on the clock with the Tennessee Titans at number 18 overall. Tennessee already had a pick here in this draft. Number 5 overall, we went with Marshawn Lattimore, a corner out of Ohio State, to help out on defense.
Hey, real quick. When do you want us to offer trades if we feel like we have to?
I guess just do it like this, and then I'll reintroduce.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So I'll say they're on the clock, and then you can jump in.
I would say Miami from 22 up to 18.
Hold on. Let me introduce it.
Okay.
And then just come across.
I was going to tell you what I was going to offer you before you get back into it, so you can decide whether or not you want to do it.
I'm going to take it.
Okay.
Because I don't like the board right now for them.
Rocco, offer him something worse.
Right. So, but what you're saying right now in your comments of why, when you accept it, elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah.
Rocco, offer him the Saints pick, definitely.
All right. So with Peppers going off the board, that's going to bring the Tennessee Titans back onto the clock here at number 18 overall.
All right, Miles, I got an interesting proposition for you. Miami Dolphins call. They offer you their first and third to move up to number 18. What say you?
Yeah, I actually like that trade for Tennessee. Reason being is while we're excited that they have 2 first-round picks here in Nashville, we also don't have a second-round pick. So to add another mid-round pick, especially in this draft, where the Titans' needs really align well with the depth here, receiver, corner, and edge rusher. I think by taking another third, which now they have several of those as well, just to move back 4 spots, when I look at my board here for Tennessee, there isn't anybody that jumps out as I need to take them now. So I think if I wait a couple of picks, I'm still going to be able to grab the guy that's in my mind by moving down 4 spots. And then I'm getting just another potential starter with Miami's 3rd-round pick. So we're going to go ahead and accept that, which moves us to put the Miami Dolphins on the clock, which gives Rocco that pick right now at number 18 overall.
All right, so there's a player I think Miami's in love with. I've seen a lot of it in different mock drafts and different things that I've read. I think they absolutely have to get above Detroit to do it, and I think that Tennessee, being a team willing to trade down, is a spot where they would look to jump up. And at number 19, the Miami Dolphins.
Hold up. You were right. It's 18.
The Redskins drafted 18.
Redskins drafted
Did
17.
they not? Oh, I'm sorry. All right. So at number 18, the Miami Dolphins are going to select Hassan Reddick, linebacker from Temple. I think he's an absolute monster. I think other than Reuben Foster, he's the best linebacker in this draft. And I think that the Miami Dolphins are absolutely in love with him enough to give up their third and get up there and get a guy who's going to be a difference in the middle of their defense.
I think that's actually a great trade up for them. That's a team that could really use 2, maybe even 3 linebackers. So Reddick's one of those guys that can move around, inside linebacker, edge rusher. Be kind of a good get for them. So that's a nice trade up.
So because of who it is I'm going to bring up, you're going to think I'm just being me and being ridiculous. But do you think that it would stall them out on that any bit at all that they just extended Kiko Alonso?
Not even some. One, they don't play this. They don't play the same way at all. Right now, without playing a single NFL game, Reddick is better than Kiko Alonso. I said it.
I didn't want to be the one that said it. I didn't want to sound like a hater.
No, they extended Alonso out of need at the position, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to address that position.
Yeah, for me, it's just the need for multiple linebackers. I mean, they're still both starters easily. So, all right. So after our first trade here of the 2017 draft, which, by the way, could have something to do with we've all studied our team's needs, I think we're going to see far more than one trade. That's kind of a side note. We're going to put the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the clock here at number 19, which is assigned to Deal. Deal, where do you see Tampa going?
So I've had them taking a receiver, and then when they shored that up with taking Deshaun Jackson, picking him up, then I switched over, and I really like more weapons for Jameis Winston, and he really hasn't had that check down guy, and he really hasn't had a solid tight end. So I've had him for a while, taking David Njoku, but because he just kind of opens up, he's a physical freak. He opens up the middle of the field. He adds a blocker for Jameis essentially, and just adds that check down feature for him, which he's been missing because he hasn't had a good tight end. And Doug Martin's really not a good receiving back. He just never has been in his career, really. Most receptions he ever had was 49, and that was the first year of his career. So after that, it's been pretty much a drop off, 12, 13, 33, 14. But instead of adding David Njoku, I'm gonna add something different here, and I'm gonna take Christian McCaffrey because I don't think Doug Martin is their future. He's already missing some games, and instead of adding that guy in the middle of the field, which their tight end situation could just improve on its own, they can take a guy like Christian McCaffrey, who is absolutely the best check down guy in this draft and the best probably we've seen for a long time, plus a good running back, which they also need. They just don't have an answer for that right now. So I have them at number 19 taking Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick for them. I don't really see him being on the board, but if he is, I think they'll be pretty quick to turn that one in. He's a great fit for what they want to do.
That is a really good pick, but the bigger shock to me is that the biggest Doug Martin truther I know just said that he is not the future.
He's the future of the Colts.
I
said it. I don't think that.
We're seeing so much flip-flop in this offseason with guys that we've been dedicated to.
No, I'm still dedicated to Doug Martin. He's just not going to play there anymore.
Oh, okay. I'm glad you cleared that up.
I feel like that wasn't that much clearer, was it?
No, I'm still pretty cloudy. So, all right, let's go on here to number 20. The Denver Broncos are on the clock here after just narrowly missing the playoffs in their Super Bowl defense. Deal, you're back on the clock here. Where's Denver going to go? So
we skipped on David Njoku on the last pick, but I think he is going to go to the Denver Broncos and just add, this kind of what I talked about with Tampa, adds a middle of the field threat. He's an incredible tight end. Just watch his film. And I've been saying they're going to take an offensive lineman for a while, which they still could because it's still a great option for them as much as they can help that offense and whatever quarterback they decide to put back there. But David Njoku is definitely going to help that with them.
All right, so that'll wrap up our top 20 here. Let's get into the playoff teams from last year and see if they can't further their advance towards the Lombardi Trophy. Number 21 overall, Rocco's going to pick here. We've got the Detroit Lions on the clock.
He might pick.
There's a half-hour time limit. You're muted.
I wish we could have heard that sequence just when you figured out you were.
So with this pick, I think the Lions could actually go in a couple of different directions. But the one I'm going to land on is improving their pass rush. I think that they absolutely need to get after the passer. They've got some guys on the team that have started to come along and make a little bit of difference. I think last year we really saw Enza take the next step. I think he needs to take a couple of more next steps. But the guy that I'm going to pair with Enza right now is going to be UCLA's Tack McKinley. I think that this guy is an absolute freak of an edge rusher. I saw some stats the other day that said the only player in the last 10 years that have matched the stats that Tack put up this past season was a little guy named Khalil Mack, and we all know what he's doing in the NFL right now. I'm not telling you that Tack's going to be the next Khalil Mack. I am telling you that the guy is a freak athlete and has the ability to absolutely dominate as a pass rusher.
That's an interesting pick for me, and it's one of those. It'll depend how each individual team's board is kind of set up. Like personally, I think Taco Charlton is ahead of him for me, especially the fact that they're a pure 4-3 team. So Charlton's size being a little bit more of a factor there, but it'll be one of those just like the second round corners. There's 8 of them, and it just depends how that individual team views the guys.
Yeah, I didn't want to say it because I don't want to sound like a homer, but I mean, I tend to agree that I think the size of Charlton would be a little more appealing, but I don't think that you're losing much going with Tack either. So
the more times you say I don't want to sound like a homer, the more everybody knows you're a homer.
Well, I waited to say something until someone else did.
But then we knew the truth.
All right, moving on here to our next selection. We're going to have the Tennessee Titans back on the clock here for the third time tonight. Just to recap here, the first time we were on the clock here, number 5 overall, selected Marshawn Lattimore, Ohio State's corner. Then at number 18 overall, we accepted a trade from the Dolphins to move back here to 22, picked up a third-round pick along the way. And here at 22, we were hoping that our guy would fall to us, and then it ended up coming true for us. The guy I would have selected, and I think they would select at 18, is just giving Marcus Mariota a little bit more help. They've shown in history they want to do that by taking offensive tackles in 2 of the past 3 first rounds. And now we've got a wide receiving core with a lot of good complement players, but nobody that stands out as a stud of his own. And I think John Ross is being horrifically overlooked in this draft. He's not Deshaun Jackson. He's not Kenny Stills. He's not just go deep and get it. I think John Ross is a far more complete receiver than people want to give him credit for. I know there were a lot of things that he just wasn't asked to do at Washington, but Deal kind of hit it when we talked about the receivers leading up, where if you're so good at go deep or catch a smoke screen and take it 70 yards, that's what they're going to have you do. But when he did run those intermediate routes and things like that, it went really well for them because nobody can cover him. Nobody can cover him. And I think a coaching staff here, especially a team that's going to want to take him in the first round, is going to be intelligent enough to not put him in harm's way with his size, especially until he bulks up a little bit. People always want to pick on size. He's a kid. You have to be built like Deshaun Jackson and not put on naturally 10 to 15 pounds. And I don't think he's quite that build. So when you add in that ridiculous speed to an offense that has this ground and pound mentality, that now you absolutely won't be able to stack the box at all on Tennessee because Ross will have 25 touchdowns over the top. So I love the pick for the Titans. Like I said, I think they would do it at 18 in a heartbeat. Now that they've picked up a third round and still got their guy, I'm calling them the winner of this draft so far. All right, number 23 overall, South, you are back on the clock with your favorite, the New York Giants.
I love the Giants so much, not that I didn't even highlight them as one of the teams that I was picking for in this draft. I highlighted every team I was picking for. I refused to highlight them. They're in a little bit of a unique situation here, though, because I feel like they're in a spot where they could be one of the first teams to, quote unquote, reach a little bit in the draft. But with the way that things fell, I think that a player that's sitting here right now fits one of their needs quite well, actually. And that's Cam Robinson from Alabama, offensive tackle. They drafted Eric Flowers. It didn't work out, I think, as well as they had hoped. He struggled quite a bit throughout the season, trying to keep Eli, from basically just getting mutilated out there. Their offensive line, for as much as I think we knock Eli and his play, they really did not do him any favors last year. So I think Robinson coming in helps them out a lot in a sense because now you can move Flowers probably over to the right tackle position where he'd be a little bit better suited. And then you could put Robinson in and have him play left tackle. Or you can hope that Flowers is going to take that next step and you have Cam Robinson to play on the right side. So you could flip-flop there based on what you see throughout training camp and throughout this offseason and get a better feel. But I think that in the long run, you improve both of the tackle positions either way. So I'm going to go ahead and select Cam Robinson here.
Yeah, I like that you ended it with that. I do hate that you did it for the Giants, but it's always my favorite kind of first round pick when teams actually select a guy that makes them better at two spots. Not necessarily that you just replace a player who was inadequate in your starting lineup, but if you're then able to take that player that is being replaced and just move him somewhere else to improve that spot, I think that's what makes these first round picks the best. I love that. I've heard you don't need to hit a home run in the first round. You hit home runs in the third and fourth round. You just got to get on base in the first round. And a good way to turn a single into a double for you baseball fans out there is by taking a guy that makes you better at two spots. So that's a great pick for the Giants. I love Robinson's versatility where they can actually just take him and build the best line they can because he's not slotted into one specific spot.
Yeah. And again, another guy who I think we would agree is criminally underrated at this point.
Yeah. Funny how many of those there are in this draft.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because so many other guys are just jumping off the page.
Yeah.
You got to push somebody down, right? They can't all be top 10. All right. So at 24 overall here, we're going to put Deal back on the clock, selecting for the Oakland, soon-to-be Las Vegas Raiders.
I'm torn between a bunch of guys here, and at the end of the day, I'm choosing value. And I thought about Gerard Davis. I thought about Zach Cunningham. Their linebacker core needs some work. They've kind of, they do have a guy named Khalil Mack. You might have heard of him. He's a pretty good defensive player. And then they tried to shore up the other side last year. The middle of their defense is still pretty weak, and I decided to go more, I guess value in that it just makes more sense in the first round and kind of how this fell. So then I was torn between Quincy Wilson and Garen Conley, and I just have Quincy Wilson just a little bit ahead of Conley. So that's who I went with, and their corners and their safeties just need some work, and realistically, they might end up getting both Florida corners, which would be crazy, but I have them taking Quincy Wilson here at 24.
Yeah, that pick will irritate me. I got to be honest.
I don't mind.
I mean, anytime you can take the second best player from his school at his position, you got to do it.
It's a matter of you can probably get the other guy later. So
that's true to an extent. And another thing that I think is interesting for the Raiders is they can kind of take that chance on the player that a lot of people think Wilson could be. I think a lot of people would put Tease ahead of him because they think that he can come in from day one and be a little bit more of a sure thing, obviously. But with Quincy Wilson, he's got some – we've talked about it before. He takes some risks. And when they pay off, they're home runs. But when they don't, he looks really unpolished. So it's kind of unique in that they're a team that I think can stand to take a little bit of a risk there for the upside on Wilson.
And I agree that I just think Wilson's ceiling is higher, but I do think that that Tabor is going to be incredible. I just don't think that any of the teams in the first round value him enough to take him in the first round. So I don't think that's a need here to take him at number 24.
Well, I guess we'll find out. It is fun to compare teammates, though. That's for sure. When you're watching film, it's like which one of these guys. It's easy to compare apples to apples. They got the same matchup every week, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, and what if the Raiders take tease with their
Get
next
both
pick?
of them.
Yep.
Be solid. All right, that's going to put us here to number 25, the Houston Texans on the clock. I'm not in the draft room, so I'm not 100% confident on the player. But if this draft falls exactly as our mock did, I don't think this pick takes more than 5 seconds to turn in with whichever name they prefer. Literally not a quarterback off the board yet. So whichever one they like most, they can select. We've said on multiple podcasts, dating back to even during the season, that Houston is a quarterback away from, I'll quote Deal as a fan of the division rival, they're a quarterback away from winning multiple Super Bowls. So if you're Houston, how do you not take that opportunity right now? We've talked about teams like San Francisco and Cleveland and New York waiting till next year's crop because that's where you might get the franchise changer. But when you're already totally loaded, you don't need the franchise changer. You need a guy who's not going to throw it away for you. So if I'm Houston, this is the year I take the quarterback. Absolutely no doubt about it. For me, I actually have Mitchell Trubisky as my number one quarterback, but for the Houston Texans, I actually like the fit of Deshaun Watson a little bit more. So I'm going a little bit against my own rankings there, but it's for a reason. I think Watson's ability to win makes him a great fit for Bill O'Brien's team here. He can come in, not have to worry about getting the whole job done by himself, just be efficient, lead his team like he just did in a national championship, and actually 2 years in a row, making it to the game where he's just a winner. And that's kind of lazy analysis, I guess, to a point, to just chalk a guy up as a winner. But at the same time, it's true. He's got the track record of it, where he's multiple times beaten teams that have better rosters because he's so talented. And then it'll add something to Houston that they haven't had in the past, which is that dual threat quarterback. One thing is he's learning how to throw and how to read defenses. One thing he's not going to have to learn is how to run. He's got that down pretty well. So I love the fit there. I won't be surprised if it's Trubisky or even Mahomes or even Kaiser or whoever they prefer. Bill O'Brien's got that quarterback whisperer reputation. So I'm sure he has a guy he likes the most, and why would they not go with that? So for me, it's Watson. For them, it's whoever it is. But with every quarterback still on the board, we're not going to have to wait long to get that pick announced.
I was a little bit shocked that, as I'm watching this unfold, that there were no other even really mentions of thoughts of a quarterback. And I'm sure other teams would, in the scenario that we've played out, have at least considered it. But I also like, you had mentioned that you thought it was almost like a lazy way of saying it, but I think it's perfect because the leaders of that team are on the defensive side of the football. So you're not looking for a guy that's going to come in here and automatically you're plugging him in and saying, you have to be the guy. You have to, take us to the top of the mountain or whatever. Watson could do that. By everything that we've seen in college, he could be that guy. But he's also the kind of guy that can come in. He just puts his nose down. He gets to work. He's responsible with the football. He's going to make good decisions overall. And I think that's the perfect fit for what the Texans really need. They don't need someone to come in and be the guy, out in front, making all the statements and barking and things like that. Watson's he fits like a glove in this situation.
Hey, Miles, gun to your head. Let's say some of these rumors that we're hearing are true, and all four quarterbacks, first-round quarterbacks, are gone by 25. Mm-hmm. Who do you have Houston taking?
Here's my honest answer to that is if all four quarterbacks are gone by 25, one of those guys is gone because Houston traded up.
Yeah.
I don't have a good answer for that on the spot because I haven't considered anything but quarterback to Houston at any point. I mean, I have their needs listed here as quarterback, linebacker, and offensive line. I mean, you can take a guy like Forrest Lamp, the way this board fell. we have the tackles off the board, but you can grab the best guard in the draft right there. I just, for me, if the quarterbacks start coming off, Houston's going to be on the phones.
I agree.
Gotcha.
So, not to avoid the question, but if there's 4 gone, it's because they got one of them.
Fair enough.
So, all right, that's going to take us to pick number 26 here for the Seattle Seahawks. And this is my 8th and final pick of this mock draft. And for me with Seattle, I said this earlier with I forget who I said it for. Oh, Arizona. All right. For me with Seattle, it's a really similar situation to what I said, 13 picks ago with the Cardinals, where they're at their best when their defense is untouchable. And for me, it's hard to look at Seattle and look at their roster and look at their reputation and even look at their results from last year and say they have needs on the defensive side of the ball. But the truth is they do have one spot that they really need, and it's that corner opposite Richard Sherman. I don't put any stock into the trade rumors. Maybe I'm way off base, but I think it's just them reaching out to some of his antics last year and saying, listen, man, you're expendable, but they're not going to trade Richard Sherman. That'd be ridiculous. But that second spot's kind of always been trouble, even when they've been great, where there's been somewhere people can go with the ball. And for me, I like them to address that here in round 1, where they're going to keep a guy here in state, Washington corner, Kevin King. He fits to a T what they want, what they like out of their corners, which is size. King is 6'3". It's still athleticism, and he's actually twice the athlete Richard Sherman is. So it's funny that you can almost like copy and paste what I said about Marlon Humphrey to Arizona and do it here, where if King allows himself to be taught the technique that Sherman has, which is unduplicated across the league, and match it with the natural athleticism and then the size that no one else in this draft has, that combination of 6'3" height and then his speed and just overall athletic ability. I think King could be a total steal here. I know next Thursday night, if King goes off the board here, I'll be devastated. He is my number 1 target for the Eagles in the second round. I think he's going to be a superstar, especially if he gets drafted in Seattle and gets to sit there and watch film with Cam Chancellor, Earl Thomas, and Richard Sherman every single week and just absorb all that knowledge with, like I said, size and physical ability that can't be matched. So I love Kevin King to the Seahawks here, not as a fan, but just as a logical person, and in this case, as the Seahawks GM. I think he's a great fit. I think he helps return them to the top of the heap as defenses in this league. So Seattle Seahawks, Kevin King. All right, brings us to number 27 here, the Kansas City Chiefs on the clock. Deal, you are up, making the pick for Andy Reid and company.
This one I'm really torn on because I had them taking Deshaun Watson for quite some time because Andy Reid loves that athletic quarterback, which I don't know if we've mentioned this, but Alex Smith isn't much of an athlete or quarterback. So I just don't see them, it's not really a need, but I think they're trying to move on from Alex Smith if they're smart at all. So, but I don't see them liking any of these guys because none of these guys are comparable really to what Deshaun Watson brings as an athlete. And I don't like them to take Mitch Trubisky because personally I think he could just be Alex Smith 2.0. So it's not a risk that I'm willing to take in the first round when it's not really a necessity here. So I'm going to move further down on the board and who I talked about earlier. I like them to take Gerard Davis, and their defense still needs work. Their offense somehow is scoring points. I don't know how they possibly are scoring points. It's amazing. But I like Gerard Davis to be a difference maker on that defense and really to bring a spark that they've kind of been missing outside of the safety position. So I just feel like he is a fit there and can be a big help.
All right, South. It's here. It's time, buddy.
Pass.
With the number 28 pick in the 2017 draft, the Dallas Cowboys are here on the clock. South has drawn the lucky straw here and gets the pick for his favorite team.
I want to see South draft a Michigan man to Dallas. It's going to happen right here.
Can we do that thing where, like, a couple of years ago where like the Vikings just fell asleep in the war room and teams just kept picking until like we run out of time on the pod and Dallas just hasn't picked yet?
I don't think that's how this is going to work. We're trying to be realistic out here.
All right. Well, here's the thing about Dallas. When I look over this roster and some of their needs, I do not agree with this assessment, but I think that internally they believe that their offense is just about where they want it to be. Obviously, the running game is squared away. There's really nothing left to be desired there as far as the guys you have up front making the holes and the guy you have demolishing people on the other side of the hole. I think they could probably use a wide receiver to complement Des Bryant. I'm not sure that they're going to be willing to do that at this spot. They have so many needs along their defense. When you look at their depth chart, it's actually comical when you look at it, and you wonder, how did they get as far as they did last year with some of these guys here? And now you go and make these genius moves like adding Nolan Carroll, who couldn't cover me at Turkey Bowl. So they've got a couple needs here. They could be looking at a cornerback. They could be looking at an edge rusher. I think that a guy that we brought up earlier, who I'm going to say again, has been criminally underrated at this point, fits like a glove for them. That's Tease Tabor out of Florida. Here's a guy who, for whatever reason, whether it's because he ran a slow 40, maybe he had an injury with his hamstring, whatever, he slid down people's boards late into the second round at this point. That's ridiculous to me. When you put on the tape and you watch him play, he's phenomenal at the corner position. He can really, just lock a guy down, take away a side of the field. And that's something that Dallas really has tried to do with some of their previous picks, and it hasn't worked out for them. They have to improve their secondary. It's pretty much the biggest reason why they lost in the playoffs. So I think that at this spot, they're going to go ahead and select Tease.
I guess that's my line. I'm sorry. I'm falling asleep. Falling asleep at the wheel.
I would too if we talked about Cowboys for that long.
Yeah, I think Tease is actually a pretty good pick there. I agree with your assessment. It's got to go on the defensive side of the ball. I don't agree that would be the pick, but I would be pretty upset because that second round Tease dream, the tease, it really should be somebody at the end of the first taking that player. And if it's Dallas, I think they've got a big steal there. So
South just didn't want to pick Taco to Dallas. It's the truth.
That's all that. I'm
honestly, the way this board fell, I would have taken Malik McDowell in a heartbeat.
Yeah, and I thought about him, to be honest with you. I think that for whatever reason, I think the Cowboys really think they have something in David Irving. Who knows? Maybe they're right, but I'm not basing that off of one good game that he had on Sunday Night Football. And I think that they still believe in DeMarcus Lawrence as well. So, I just think that if you're thinking about it from their perspective, they're going to view the corner as the biggest need.
All right, so that brings us to pick number 29 here. The Green Bay Packers are on the clock, and Rocco is up to pick for the Pack.
So I've had the Packers taking edge rush in every single draft that I've given them so far, but never has this player fallen to them. And I think if he did, they would jump on it almost as quick as Houston handed in their quarterback pick. So right here, Green Bay Packers take Taco Charlton, DN out of Michigan. We've talked about him a lot on our podcast, mainly because South is a homer and loves to talk about Michigan players. But he's got tremendous size. You can play him on so many different fronts along the defense. I mean, he is a typical 4-3 end, but he can stand up and play outside linebacker. South said Michigan used to put him in the middle and play him in D tackle because he's so large. You can get mismatches all over the field with a guy like this, and I think that's going to help out Green Bay immensely when it comes to getting to the passer.
I actually think that's a horrible fit for them. Not to pick on your spot, and I get the value part of it because Taco really is potentially a top 10 player, but I don't know where he fits in Green Bay. He maybe you can stand up in the Big Ten, but you can't stand up in the NFL at his size. And moving him to the interior is almost a wasted pick. It's like the Datone Jones thing they did a few years ago. I like the position. I just don't like the player there. That's just me being a jerk, but I don't like the player there.
You don't have to. I think Green Bay would love his versatility there.
I think they would take TJ Watt over him in a heartbeat. But anyways, neither of us know. So I guess we'll find out shortly here. I just blew up your pick. I apologize.
Mike called me. That's why I made the pick.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
You're that plugged in, huh?
Well, to the Packers, yeah. I can't speak for everybody. Me and Mike have the same body style and we eat the same foods, so
well, that's good.
Did you go to Permane Brothers with Mike?
Oh,
no, I did not.
I'm going to be most upset that you went to Permane Brothers without me and came to Pittsburgh and didn't visit me. So,
all right. Speaking of Permane Brothers, let's put the Steelers on the clock here at 30.
Good transition.
We're going to call that transition game strong.
I like it, real strong.
So number 30 here, South is going to be selecting for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Where do you see them going, bud?
I think the Steelers are thrilled at this point because here's something that I haven't understood about the Steelers for the last couple of years. It feels like every year going into the draft, we talk about how they need to pick a corner. It's been one of the weaknesses on their team for the past couple of years. And they got better play from the corner position than I think they anticipated, but that should not deter them from turning in their card for Gary and Conley here. A lot of people actually are putting him neck and neck with Lattimore as far as a future prospect. I'm not sure that I'm willing to go that far, but I think that if you're a team that is sitting here at number 30 in this draft and Conley is on the board, you're absolutely ecstatic. This is a guy who, by all accounts, can slide in right away and play from day one, has excellent cover skills, and from what I have seen, can get physical too. So I think that that's going to fit not rather nicely with what the Steelers are building there on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I like that pick for them a lot. I think the thing on Conley is the more people are reading tape, it's a situation where they think, not neck and neck with Lattimore for right now, but I keep seeing this quote of, and maybe it's just 100 people copying the quote of one guy, but it keeps seeing that 3 years down the line, no one's going to be surprised if we look back and he's the best corner in the class.
Right.
So maybe a good steal there for Pittsburgh at 30. All right, Deal, you're up here. We're going to put the Atlanta Falcons on the clock at number 31 overall.
All right, so I've been taking offensive guard for the Falcons for a long time, probably 2-3 months. And I had for a while Dan Feeney there. He kind of fell down on my board along with everybody else's. The reason I had them taking Dan Feeney is because the other guards that I had ranked higher went before there. And then just last week or 2 weeks ago, I changed to Tim Williams because I still feel like somebody should take a chance on that guy because as far as an athletic linebacker, he's unbelievable. And, he does have a past. He comes with some baggage, but I feel like somebody's still going to take a chance on him, if not in the first, early in the second. But here, the Falcons have to be pumped that Forrest Lamp fell to them, and I have them taking Forrest Lamp without hesitation, offensive guard from Western Kentucky, and just add to that blocking. The running game is already so strong, but add opening up the middle with a big body like Forrest Lamp, and just keeping Matt Ryan upright for that deep threat of all those receivers. So Forrest Lamp, kind of a no-brainer in my mind to the Falcons.
I think it's really important to note right here also, I think the Falcons would be like a prime candidate for somebody to trade up or trade up like right into jump over Cleveland, especially if the board felt like this and like somebody like San Francisco or Chicago thought that like Trubisky could be their guy. I would look for Atlanta to move out of that spot, gain another pick. Not that they need more players, but gain another pick, drop down 3 or 4 spots, and we could probably see a quarterback going in that 31st spot.
Yeah, possibly pick up move back a couple and get maybe like another second or another third. And man, that would be a dream situation there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and the hidden reason for that too, that if the board does fall like this, I'd be shocked. I mean, they'd have to love. I hate that just happened. They'd have to love Lamp
I love Lamp.
to not accept that trade. But
Yeah.
if you're a team that wants a quarterback and you see Mitchell Trubisky sitting there, when you trade up into the first round, let's not forget you get that 5th-year option. You get the chance to hang on to that player for 5 years in his first contract instead of 4. And that matters for every player, but especially a quarterback, where let's say Mitchell Trubisky does blossom and become a stud. You actually get him for an extra year at that limited cost instead of having to give him his $125 million contract a year earlier if you pick him at 33 than if you pick him at 31. So it's kind of a good way for both teams to get what they want.
Man, how crazy would that be if the Browns trade up into the first to take Trubisky and give up both of their seconds, so they get 3 first-rounders, but then the Falcons get both of those seconds for something they really didn't even want.
Actually, pretty great trade.
Yeah,
I think it would be a great trade, but I don't think there's any way that the Browns are the ones that pull off that trade, at least in this situation.
why
not to 31. I actually had that mocked last week on the site that they traded both of their seconds to Oakland for 24, but I just don't think it's going to.
I thought you meant trade up into the first at all.
Oh no,
Yeah,
just
I think
in
they
this
could do it.
situation.
No, yeah,
Like you don't have to jump New Orleans to get
right.
Trubisky.
But I think what I just said is actually the reason for the trade. Like if I'm Cleveland and New Orleans is on the clock, I'd actually trade. Hey, here's a 5th-round pick. We have 13 picks in this draft.
Yep.
Here's a 5th, just so I get the 5th-year option on Trubisky.
Yeah.
Instead of not getting it, and then who knows what happens. So, just for the quarterback, I don't think that's going to be a common trade across the NFL. But to get that extra year of control on a quarterback is a huge deal. So, all right. So speaking of the Saints here, we've got them on the clock here at 32. Rocco, where do you see the Saints going after taking Reuben Foster at number 11?
So I have the interesting job here of I'm drafting for the Saints after somebody else has already drafted for the Saints. So we're not working in collaboration with each other, but I am taking into account what they've already done. And since they've already taken Reuben Foster, I am now going to address the secondary of this defense. This defense is pretty bad, pretty awful. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I feel like if they can get this defense back to respectability, at least, some respectability, we could actually see this defense take a next step, and Drew Brees might get one more shot at the playoffs. So I am actually going to go cornerback here, and we're going to go with Tre'Davious White, cornerback from LSU. Love the size, love the speed. I don't think that he's the most physical corner that we're going to see, but at the same time, they just need anybody who can cover, especially because they still don't have a great pass rush at this point, which I think they'll address early in the second round. But I think here they go corner and they take Tre'Davious White.
You take that back. They have Kakaha.
No one has ever irrationally loved a player the way you love Haloi Kakaha.
Listen, it's one of
Not
those
once.
things. It's one of those things like the Sam McGuffey highlight tape. When you watch the highlight tape,
Right.
you just unconditionally fall in love with him.
All right. So the first round here in the books, and big board surprises. Obviously, having Trubisky still here, and I think maybe the way this mock went, we were really paying attention to some team needs and some value. But I think we can all agree that next Thursday there's going to be some quarterbacks off the board. I mean, it's just what happens every year. Even 2013, E.J. Manuel was a first-round pick. So, things happen. But you still have Malik McDowell on the board, a great talent. Obi Melifonwu with measurables you can't even test. Charles Harris with a motor that doesn't quit. So there's some great players to be had here on day 2 of this draft. All right, so that's going to wrap it up here for this edition of the Football Goons podcast. We hope you enjoyed the discussion. And again, we're asking you to get active for us on social media. We can't take over the world without your help. How did we do finding value and meeting a need for your team? What are you hoping your team does? Hold on. Jeez, how did I can't even read. What are you hoping your team is going to pick up in the first round next Thursday night in Philadelphia? Keep checking out the new podcasts every week as we're getting ridiculously close to this draft, only 10 days away. Next week, we'll be diving into some other predictions about the draft, like teams we think might move up or back, perfect team prospect fits, players who may go higher or lower than the general public thinks, and more. Also, keep up with the weekly mock draft releases on Thursdays. This week, South is going to follow up my 2-rounder with one of his own so we can kind of see where teams compare after 2 full rounds. As always, you can find us on footballgoons.com, facebook.com/footballgoons, and on the Twitter @footballgoons. Thanks again for the listen, and as always, we'll catch you next time.